words that some of the soft-spoken people aren't getting heard at home or on the recording, and people in the back room. So, Barb, Kim, we'll kind of leave it up to you. If you can't hear some of us, just mention. I want to make sure everybody can hear. So use your outside voices, I guess. All right. Call this meeting to order. Stuart City Council tentative agenda, Monday, January 12th, 2026, 6 p.m. Council chambers. Call to order. Caldwell.
Here.
Capps.
Here.
Ingers.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
And Russell.
Here.
Before we move on, I would like to bring up public forum number 17, right under number 3, before 4, if we could, please.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, agenda approval. Caldwell?
We need a motion.
Oh, sorry, we need a motion. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Make the motion.
Okay.
Seconded by?
I'll second.
Ingers? How do you vote? Caldwell?
Yes.
Capps?
Yes.
Ingers?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Russell?
Yes.
All right, number 3, consent agenda. Approval of minutes of 12/8/2025 and special meeting of 12/1/2025 and special meeting of 1/5/2026. Approval of financial statement as of 12/31/2025. Approval of bills as presented. Approval of liquor licenses. The Stuart Scoop, doing business as Summit Grove. And also the approval of liquor license, Hometown Foods.
Need a motion?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
How do you vote? Caldwell?
Yes.
Capps?
Yes.
Ingers?
Abstain.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Russell?
Yes.
Okay. Public forum. When we open this up, you will have 3 minutes to talk. You're more than welcome to talk about things on the agenda, and you're more than welcome to talk about any things outside of this agenda. When we move to the discussion pieces, there will be no discussion from the public at that time. It will be strictly council at that time, unless you are called upon for your personal opinion or whatever that the council wants to call on you. So, okay? All right. The public forum is open. Anybody has anything?
Just real quick,
Chief?
I didn't get time to put it on the agenda, so I just wanted to give you guys, it's just the end of your report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, we'll close public forum. Number 4, Scout Troop 167, merit badge. I will turn this over to John Gobronson.
Thank you, Corey. I won't take up very much of your time because I see you have a large agenda. I am here as the merit badge counselor for citizenship and the community merit badge. Our scoutmaster has the easy job tonight, sitting on the city council. But we are doing citizenship of in the community merit badge. One of the requirements is to attend a public meeting, preferably a city council meeting. And they're not here just to observe. They're here to choose one of the items, 1 or 2 or 3 of the items on your agenda, and we will discuss those as we go through this merit badge. So they will be paying attention, so behave yourselves.
Thanks, John. All right, number 5, Wiley Seamus, 308 North Main Street. Wiley?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just got a few, I wrote this out, so bear with me. It says, I, Wiley Shumas, I'm here to ask for documentation and present present paper filed on prior to 9/11/17. This also includes any filings of the 308 North Main Street of Paul Richard Schumas for the property infractions that were sent to Paul Richard Schumas 3 days before his death, certified from the state of Iowa, 8/14/2016. And it was moved by Belden and Crawford. On 11/13/17, Crawford and Belden approved Beverly Wild's recommendations for junk properties that were addressed for recommendations for junk properties, and they were addressed in the property at 308 North Main as one of them for the amount of $1,587 for Beverly Wild to move forward at the sell the recommendation so it can be demolished per recommendation. What was the recommendation on 308 North Main Street? Agenda 13, 7/9/2018, resolution number 18-24C, set date July 23rd, 2018, at 6:30 for a public hearing for the state, for the sale of the city property at 308 North Main Street property. November 13th, 2017 through July 9th, 2018 through the 23rd of 2018. Agenda number 4, needed documentation on December 12th, 2018, meaning who gave the written request to the city that I would attend such meeting, saying on December 12th that I did not attend the agenda meeting. So I'm trying to lay this to rest about the property, pretty much. I just feel like that what was taken from the property. So Mayor, I came in on 9/11/17 regarding infractions. Mayor Cook, I asked Mayor Cook what the infractions were. Mayor Cook said, Wiley, well, you know, Wiley, we've been trying to clean up your father's property for a long time. That's what was gave to me. Well, after he passes in 2016, the property is mine. It's no longer my father's. So if he was sent anything for them to come on said property, which the city trespassed onto the property at 308 North Main Street on January 2nd, 2017, removing all assets that my father and I had established over the last 25 years. Over $40,000 in tools was taken off said property. The city had no right to trespass on the property. How was I to do a probate estate when all assets were stolen? Property was mine, not father's, after August 16, 2016. So I pretty much, I need some information on the property from 2014 to 2018, because the property was in my father's name, and there's no information except for the 2018 when somebody applied for a temporary land deed on the property. But I want to know how the city sold the property in between that period of time. Wasn't notified that I needed to be here for any such thing. I have made no written request to come in front of the city council. If there was one made, I'd like it to be produced, because it wasn't me, or I would have been here. I was in town, I was on the other side of town here, but I was here on that said date. And if I knew I had to be here, I would have been here. So that's kind of where I stand. I just know there's a lot of infractions that happen with the property, and it really needs to be looked into. And I just want to know how you acquired the property and the sale of the property, so I can go from there. That's kind of all I have.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Hey Corey,
Yes.
people listening can't not hear people talking.
At the podium
No,
or
yeah.
up here?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's try to turn that up just a little bit. All right, let's try this. All right. Number 6, nuisance violation hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just asking.
Um,
Was Mr. Schumas requesting more information from us?
They're requesting information just on the sale of the property through the city to private ownership, or how it became purchased, because it
How
was.
it became city property?
Yeah, well, I know how it became city property, but how it became city property, and actually how you sold it before the public auction. You sold it as a private.
What all information did you get from us at this point? Like,
I haven't got the information on that.
you haven't received anything from the city
No,
yet?
I've received everything from 2018. I haven't received anything. I want to ask for anything that has to do with Paul Schumas on the property, if it had to be, if it was meant for him, but since his death, it would initially go to me, but if it was going to him, I wasn't aware of it whatsoever. It just says in the paper that I was the predecessor, which I am, so the property should have fell over to me. So anything that was coming about, I should have been notified. If I was, I'd like to know when I was notified, if I was notified electronically, or if they notify me like the sheriff notified my father of the cleanup, like a certified piece of mail, which I know they probably don't do certified anymore, but then, I'm assuming the criteria, it was. That's how he was sent to clean up the property. They came on the property and cleaned it up.
Yep.
That's where I'm kind of getting at. Their infraction of that period, they had no right to come on the property whatsoever. My father died, it doesn't mean they can follow through with something that was on him when he died. It would have to be reissued through me, since it was my property after the fact, then I could have did something about it, but it wasn't proceeded that way.
Did you get any of the stuff that we got in our packet? Most of it.
No, go ahead. Mike.
So did you get everything from the last time you were here that you asked for? I know we'd said contact Sarah.
Yeah, I contacted Sarah, but then I didn't get anything of, the private sale. It
Okay,
wasn't a
just-
public,
okay.
yeah, and didn't get none of that, and I didn't get the reasoning for why it was sold. It was sold for supposedly back taxes, and that was supposedly the cleanup they did on the property was $1,600 and some odd dollars. They applied that to the taxes of the house. We owed no taxes on the house whatsoever. So how they got the property was the applied taxes were from the cleanup that they did on the property after his death. That's where I have an issue. That's the major issue for me. Even though it's been years later, it's been hard to go through. I've had my identity stolen. I was actually, that was a big part from 2021 to 2023, and was not Wiley Schumas. I was another said person that works under Beverly Wild. So one of the colleagues there, so I couldn't do nothing for a while. So I couldn't get a lot of information even. And I do have a lot of information. I just would like to get the city's side of the information on just how you guys took a property like that.
So do you have what you need to get him what he's asking for? Okay.
We'll get you what we got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, number 6, nuisance violation hearing, 616 North Fremont Street. Mrs. Dawson. Present. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Alexi Dawson. I live with my family and my spouse at 616 North Fremont, and I'm here to talk with the council about the abatement that happened on our property in November. Last year, our property was reported in early November or early 2024. Property was reported for code violation, and we responded to the city. in writing, as we were requested in the letter. And then we were sent another letter, sent a response saying, you know, we're working on these things and all these things. And then the last letter we received was in May, to which we responded in person in the city hall. And then that was it, and that's the last we heard from the city, and we were assuming that everything was fine. And then in November, while I was at work, and Rick was home, the city showed up and came on our property and took things that belonged to us. I was forced to leave my work early that day and come home. The incident actually caused stress and emotional harm to our family, especially after we initially had responded and heard anything from the city. It's extremely disturbing that we were kind of denied due process. No hearing was scheduled, no paperwork was sent again, more paperwork was sent. And the Fourth Amendment gives us a right to be secure in our persons, our property, and our papers without due process. And we were completely denied that ability. The code enforcement came and took things that belonged to myself and my family, including children's rollerblades. I have 6 children, and I have my children, except for one child, doesn't have any rollerblades, and they can't now, and roller skates, and they can't go skating, right, at the community skate. You know, they took my mower that I had for my neighbor. I helped my neighbor lady out a lot, Melissa. I help her out with some lawn work and stuff like that. They took the lawnmower that I used for her. We only had 2 lawnmowers, both working. They took the lawnmower I use at her property and keep over there, but it was just winter time. She doesn't have a place to put it. We also don't have a garage into which to store the bikes for our children. So that was also, you know, something that, you know, we do the best we can. You know, if anyone has kids, you know that you just do the best that you can. We work hard to become self-sufficient and grow gardens and keep animals like rabbits for food. But I'd like to know, I mean, how to proceed, because children, like I said, you know, the rollers were taken, some sleds were taken, and I also have slowly been purchasing materials to update our home and make sure that it's up to code. But I can't buy lots of stuff at a time, so I buy a little bit at a time, and I had finally gotten enough to finish out the children's playhouse and do some work on the front of the garage. But that was taken during the abatement. So all that hard work that I had gone to buy the materials slowly is now set us back astronomically. And it was already a struggle to even find help. And this situation has really been kind of destabilizing. The children are anxious, and they shouldn't feel that way in their own home and on their own property. And living in a state of constant vigilance because we don't know if the city's going to show up again. That's a huge thing. You know, it erodes family stability and trust in the local government. And this has fundamentally changed how I view community. We believe that being part of a small town meant neighbors helping neighbors, conversation before confrontation, and cooperation before punishment. Instead, we have experienced a system where complaints are rewarded, communication is absent, and enforcement happens without relationship or context. Bicycles and toys and things are materials for daily life, and we rely on our gardens and rabbits to feed us. And then I also want to kind of address a little bit quickly here, the kind of system that this creates. It breeds fear and distrust, it divides neighbors, and makes families wary and anxious rather than supported. This system does not allow families the freedom to live in the ways they need to live, especially families who are large and resourceful and self-sufficient, and working for self-sufficient. You don't have to have a perfect property to be a good neighbor or a good person. I also want the people listening to understand tonight something important. A complaint about one area of your item or property can lead to abatement on the entire property. They can come and walk around and take whatever they don't feel like should be there. That includes walking around the entire house and taking a rain barrel that was actually in active use, and now I have water dripping into my foundation, into my sewing room. And this, I do want to say too that we do care about the community. We're a scouting family. My 6 children are here tonight. I am a scout leader. I'm actively involved in community and scouting and supporting local businesses. But after this, you know, when you take the heart of the citizens, you take the heart of the community. And that's a huge thing. We don't want to live in a community where we're living in fear of the neighbors narking. We don't live in a fear of being, you know, raided at any time. I mean, if Rick hadn't been home at the time of the abatement, who knows what else they would have taken. We're doing the best we can, and when stuff like this happens, it sets back families, it divides communities, it divides families, and it makes it difficult for us to all come together and pull together. I know that there's now a church offering some sort of assistance or whatever, but it doesn't matter in a way right now because I don't have the materials anymore to repair my property or to keep it updated because it was taken. We have again submitted, which I think Rick will speak about, a document to the city on December 11th about the last of the abatement. But again, it's been 1 month and we still haven't heard from the city. So when are they gonna show up again? Right, and I feel it's a fair question. But I'm gonna go back to this one more time. The community can step up and help each other. If there's a problem, we need to communicate. And if there's a problem, we need to help each other. I lived in Des Moines and I left because I didn't have a voice. And when you live in the community, my friends are here in the audience, my children are here. A place where we can raise a family and we don't feel threatened by our neighbors who don't like us, or we're not living the way that they want us to live, when we're doing the best that we can. Life is hard and it's tough, and we're doing the best we can. And when we go against each other and we allow stuff like this to happen, who is next? Who's gonna get hurt? I worked very hard to build friends and community here in Stuart in the last 6 years. And it's been important to me. But this broke my heart, you guys. Broke my heart. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call on Harrison if you wanna, speak on behalf of this, nuisance violations.
So, my name's Harrison Van Osdal, owner of Iowa Code Enforcement, and I was the one that sent the letters to 616 North Fremont Street for all the code violations that they had. I have some of the pictures from, I don't know if you guys want to see this or not, but I will provide it. I'm sure Sarah's already provided some of that information to you. This was at the time of abatement afterwards. So there's pictures there of siding missing off the front of the home, off the rear of the home. There's multiple different accessory structures on the property, including one that has no siding at all or roofing material. I believe in the letter it was called a kid's playhouse. It's either way, it's still considered an accessory structure. It's not being used as anything. And there was also other discarded lumber that had been thrown on the inside that was twisted, and it's just decaying lumber because it's not in a weather-tight area. As far as accessory structures, you're only allowed to have one accessory structure on the premises of the home. So that would be code section 168.12. And so there's also many cages or unused cages. I believe it's called hutches or coops in the letter, and they said that they raise meat chickens and meat rabbits. You're only allowed to have 2 chickens on your property and only allowed to have 3 rabbits on your property at one time for anything. That good section.
Is that 55.13?
Yeah, I might have handed it off to you. Yep. So that's all listed in there, and anybody can look that up. As far as the chicken coop, when we were there, it smell of feces, discarded. I know how you throw scraps in with the chickens. That's what chickens eat, but some of that stuff needs to be cleaned up. The neighbor had multiple complaints about how bad the smell was, and also stated that he was not able to go out and use his garage that sits right beside that chicken coop in the summer because it smells so bad. As far as at the time of inspection and time of abatement, there's many items discarded and laid throughout the whole yard, which had been called out in all the letters that had been sent. I believe it was March. So initial inspection was on March 2nd, 2025. The first notice was sent March 4th, which talked about all those items that you could see from the street and the alleyway. And then there was, after that, I believe we didn't receive anything, and then we received a notice from the homeowner about what they were going to do or not do for the property. And then a second notice was sent on the 31st of March. After that, waited about 2 weeks, and then it was sent over to the city, and the city attorney took it from there. So, you guys have any questions or like me to go over some of the items that I've showed you pictures of?
She did mention, Harrison, that they didn't receive any communication from the city, and then just all of a sudden, here was that abatement and everybody
So-
shows up, so.
When I send my letter, every single letter that I have, my name, phone number, email is at the top and the bottom of each letter that I send. Nobody contacted me personally. If they contacted the city, I received one of those letters, and then they were told that they were supposed to be reaching back out to me, and I never heard from them. So I don't have their email access or anything like that if they don't reach out to me personally.
Is it safe to say that any communication being mailed that's certified?
Yeah, all mail is sent, regular mail and also certified for both of those letters that I sent. As far as the city, I believe they send certified as well.
From the
Yeah.
attorney,
Yep.
okay. Alright. And the council members have any questions for Harrison?
So at the time of the abatement, we went through, removed everything that was discarded, junk materials laying in the yards. They were talking about kids' toys. There's many broken kids' toys laying in the yard. A lot of those items were picked up. All the bicycles, other items like that, scooters, stuff were set off to the side, and the homeowner was also picking up many of the items, taking them inside as we were there for the inspection. As far as like things that were taken, it would have been broken chicken coops and many other things that are just discarded throughout the yard. Trash, cans, everything. So you can see some of the stuff that's in some of those pictures and then previous pictures that you guys have. One of the items that was listed in there was a storage box, a homemade storage box. During the inspection, there was a snowstorm that was coming. I think it was like maybe a week after, or pretty soon after we had done the abatement. And talked to the homeowner, said that we weren't gonna be the ones that took the storage box because it held feed or bedding that was inside. I wasn't gonna be the one that killed off all the animals. So let them keep all that stuff, told them that they needed to store that in a different building, as well as all the bicycles, scooters, all that other stuff needs to be picked up, cleaned up, stored. Take care of any chicken, feces, debris, any other discarded trash or materials. We had filled, I can't remember what his last name is, but Marty, for cleanup, he came through with one of his other guys, cleaned up the whole property, and we had completely filled up the truck or dumpster that he had, a roll-off dumpster. And we just didn't have any more room, so let them take care of the rest of their stuff, and then they wanted to have a hearing, so we are here today.
Is this property in good standing today?
No, it looks no different than it did when I left that day, and I would say there's actually more things up there now.
Have they been notified again? Is there a requirement for another notification before you guys go back?
After this meeting tonight, there will be another notification that will need to be sent out, most likely through the city attorney. But no, there's nothing that's been sent out. Everything was on halt until after this meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing closed. Okay. Number 7, Midwest Partnership, 2026 contribution.
Okay, that's the annual contribution we give to the Midwest Partnership, and we've been doing that for the last 50 many years. That's good. So it's something that we been doing. If you have any question, I'll be glad to answer. Otherwise, we usually support to use the dollar amount they ask for. So, we need a motion.
I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody to call on you if you're gonna talk, or do you want me to make a
Go
motion?
ahead.
Just for the benefit of the new members, I was involved in the leadership of Midwest Partnership for many years. It started out as a 2-county regional development organization here in Guthrie County. It expanded to 4 counties at one point. It's back down to 2 counties. And the city of Stuart has benefited greatly from the efforts of, right now the director is Brenda Dudley. We've supported it well over 30 years, as long as I've been in the business community. They have not raised their ask, which is $1 per resident, since they first asked for support. And Brenda bends over backwards to sell Stuart as the gateway to this economic development region. And she couldn't be here tonight, or she would be here and would have said it much better than I did. I just thought, for the benefit of, there's new members here, and I thought it would be
Absolutely.
beneficial to hear some of that history.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
So we need a motion.
So I will move that we make a contribution in the amount of $1,875 to the Midwest Partnership for 2026.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
How do you vote? Cobble?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Ingrid?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Okay. Number 8, Region 12, 2026 contribution.
That's another contribution we give every year, to Asian 12. And you're probably all familiar with all the plans of mindful and the stuff with Region 12 is the biggest help we use for gathering information and all the data and all the stuff. And we've been doing this contribution for the last few years. If the council has any question about it, I'm glad to answer it. Otherwise, it's a good contribution to be given to Region 12. And $1,000, that's what you're asking for.
Okay.
Motion,
Yeah, I would move that we make a contribution of $1,000 to the Council of Government Housing.
moved by Andy.
I'll second.
Second by
Second by Nelson. How do you vote? Cobble?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Ingworth?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Russell?
Yes.
I can't.
You're
It's very
soft-spoken.
strange to hear that about me, but
Have to use your outside voice. All right, number 9, United Risk Services pre-renewal and rate introduction. Mrs. Brown.
Good evening. I just wanted to take some time. There's new faces on the council, not necessarily new to me, but new in your roles. And so I wanted to take some time to reintroduce who I am, what I do for the city, and answer any questions you have at the end. But I'll go ahead and start. My name is Janice Durham, and I have been the agent for the city's insurance for the last few years. I do want to say, and I forgot to say it at the utility board the other night, but I do want to say thank you for trusting us with your business. I truly appreciate the opportunity to work with the city and the utilities, and it's a way I can give back to my community. I do live here locally in the city of Stuart, and so it's important to me to keep our premiums low, not just because that's what I do, but because I'm a citizen and I don't want my taxes going up because your premiums are going up any more than anybody does. The other benefit is I work right here on 2nd Street, so when there's something that someone within the community or the city needs, they can just stop in my office, and that is very convenient versus having to call or email or something when there's something that you just have a quick question or you need to make a quick phone call. I'm right available and close at hand. So in addition to living local and working local, I work for United Risk Services, and I also have a dual role with First Main Street Insurance, who actually owns United Risk Services. So my dual role, and you can see on your first page where it lists out your team that works with the city's insurance. I am also the public entity account manager for First Main Street Insurance. And in that role, I work with cities, counties, utilities, schools all across the state of Iowa, in Illinois, in Minnesota. And so I have a day-to-day working relationship with public entities and understand the dynamics that public entities have that are different than other kinds of insurance. It's not like your personal insurance where you're just buying home and auto insurance. There's a lot more to it, there's a lot more involved, different kinds of scenarios, claims, everything's different than what you would expect from a personal lines account. So having the opportunity to specialize in that kind of client helps me to better serve you. I also don't work on that alone. There's a team of us that is what we do every day. We work with public entities. So a risk advisor that also works with the city is named Joe Venz. He couldn't be here tonight, but he also jumps in and provides expertise and clarifies things and brings a lot of knowledge, a lot deeper than I have, to the role, and provides a lot of leadership for what we need to help us bring you the best. On the back, you'll see there's a list of other team members. We are affiliated with True North companies, so we do have a lot of extra expertise that we can tap into depending on what type of situation might arise, whether you want to look into cyber or if benefits are a concern. I know we've talked to the city a little bit about the benefits structure and maybe talking to somebody about that. So we do have some other things that we can also tap into within our team. Another item I wanted to just mention is that I don't just come to these meetings, provide you the renewal, and then turn in claims, or I am constantly learning and growing and trying to do a better job for you. And we're required to do continuing ed to be an agent, but my continuing ed, I'm choosing to get designations so that I thoroughly understand the insurance policies that I'm selling to you, that I understand all of the dynamics that go on within the industry, and can do a better job for the city and for the utilities. I don't want to just be mediocre. I want to bring my best effort to you and to serve you in the best way possible. And so that's something that's important to me, to challenge myself. And also Joe Venz, the other gentleman that works with the city, feels the same and has recently got his certified insurance counselor designation and is working towards a risk manager designation. And I'm working towards a certified insurance counselor designation. So I just wanted to mention that this is not something that I don't take seriously. I want to grow. I want to be the best I can on your behalf. Another thing I want to mention is that within the state of Iowa, there's really two players for insurance for public entities, ICAP and EMC. And with ICAP, work comp is with IMWCA. So those players are people that I work with every day, not just EMC, not just ICAP, but being taking care of a lot of different kinds of clients in the public entity space. I'm working with ICAP every day. I'm working with EMC every day. So I have a great working relationship with both of those carriers who provide this kind of insurance. And so that's a benefit, that I can go to the different carriers and have that relationship where if something's not meeting the needs of the city, we can look at an alternative, or we can at least discuss it. Last year we brought IMWCA to the city, and they did a walkthrough, he and I, to see if they would look at the work comp and give us a quote on that. We went to the fire station, talked to EMS, did a pretty deep dive into what work comp would look like through them. At that time, they declined to offer a quote, but we're at least bringing the players in and have the capability to do that, to look at alternatives when it's necessary. The other thing I wanted to mention is on the second page that I gave you. Behind the scenes, just so that we don't take up more of your time as the council, Joe and I meet with Ash and Sarah 4 times a year, just as standard meetings. When we renew at the beginning of the year, April 1st, we set 4 standard meetings, and then we hold those throughout the year. And those 4 meetings include a claims review meeting, so that we have a time where we sit down, discuss claims, whether they're open, whether there's repeat claims that need to be addressed, that maybe there's a safety concern that is continuing and we need to figure out a plan for that. Whether it's large claims, if we need a plan of attack, or they want to discuss what the carrier's saying about those claims, or what the concerns might be from the carrier side. And we play advocate on behalf of the city back to the carrier once we can have that discussion. It also helps us to close claims if they're open and they're just sitting open, prior to the time when the carriers take a snapshot, and then that develops your experience modification for the next year, which plays into your premium. So if we can get that done, get claims closed, follow up with adjusters on what the problems might be, then that helps keep your premium lower. Our second meeting of the year is to discuss a premium forecast. That helps us to help you better budget. We look at the marketplace, what it's doing, we listen to carriers, see what lines of coverage they're increasing this year, or if there's been a lot of claims. Law enforcement is an example recently that I'm hearing. There's a lot higher claims in that category of line of coverage than in the past. So we're able to talk to the carriers and learn where they'll probably increase lines, and then bring you a better forecast so that as you budget, you're using relatively accurate numbers. We're not gonna be completely accurate, but at least give you some kind of guideline. The third meeting is a pre-renewal meeting where we just talk through the renewal process. We see if you want to take the account out to bid, or if, based on our projections, if you're happy with where you're at and you wanna stay there. We look through assets, make sure the asset lists are accurate and up to date. So you're not paying for things you don't have, but you also have coverage for things that might have been missed throughout the year. And then finally, we meet to go over the renewal and answer any questions they have, discuss anything that they want to bring up before it comes to the council for a vote and discussion here. So those are our 4 meetings, and we just have those as part of our standard process with clients. In addition, we always have an open door where if there's a claim or a question or something, Ash has called and said, can you come over here? And then we sit down and talk about a situation. Or I've had the fire chief in my office where we're talking about something that relates to that situation. So of course, there's things that we're working on or meeting on outside of those 4, but those are our standard, just ways that we can touch base and make sure that we're providing an excellent quality for what you're paying for your coverage and your service. So that was what I wanted to cover tonight, just to give you an overview of who I am and what we do to support the city. I wanted to do it outside of renewal time, because otherwise we're just focused on numbers, and so many of you are new. I thought maybe I would reintroduce myself. So can I answer any questions for you, or if there's ways that you know that you'd like us to do a better job on your behalf? I'd love to hear it.
No questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 10, C. We'll start with B and K, amendment to agreement, Wamble Phase 3, additional engineering fees. Warren, you want to talk to us?
You know what a reluctant speaker I am. I want to start out by welcoming the new council members and the new mayor, and welcome back the veteran members of the council. I'm on the agenda for a couple items, and first one I hope can go fairly quickly. It's my fault that it's back on your agenda. I ask that you give SEED the opportunity to weigh in on this decision. And just very, very quickly, in part because I don't do Facebook anymore, but I understand there's been some talk about SEED on Facebook, and I want to set the record straight a little bit. SEED is a volunteer organization. The members pay $100 dues, kind of like Midwest Partnership. We haven't changed that, I think, since we started. At least since Stuart Development Corporation actually started way back in the 1960s when I was just a toddler. But, and it started out as a for-profit development group. SEED is a nonprofit. It's a 501c6 for you tax wonks in the audience, which is not a 501c3 charitable organization. You don't get any deduction for putting money into SEED, but we are a tax exempt nonprofit organization for promoting business and economic development. in our case, in the Stuart region. And I was gonna check with Matt, I think we have something like 34 members. And frankly, about half of them just want to support what we're doing or have a hand in or keep abreast of what we're doing. We're very blessed. We have 12 to 15 people at most meetings, sometimes a couple of dozen if there's a lot of interest, which is good for a community this size. This community's been blessed with a very visionary, forward-thinking city council. From the time I was a child, I think back to people like the vet, Kerry Christensen and Ken Harris. The whole reason that we're connected up with the interstate is because of their vision. And throughout the years that I've been in this community, which has been over 30, I've really, we've had great mayors, Cheryl Marks, Dave Fry, Gene Scalinger, Dick Cook for many years, and now Corey. And it's really benefited this community. And I hope that people understand that by expanding the tax base, that allows us to spread fixed costs over more dollars and actually helps. And the best example of that is the housing projects that Seed has been involved in. And the Womble Third Edition is our fourth project now. And previous city councils were actually able to reduce the tax rate because of the additional tax base that was added to the community. That's a long introduction. I want to get to the matters at hand here. The current housing development, which was done in conjunction with repair and renovation of our sewer system. It wasn't all for infrastructure for the new housing development, but it was $8.7 million. And we paid for that with TIF. And this also applies to the second item that I'm on the agenda for, but tax increment financing, just to give you a brief overview, and I apologize, Mr. Mayor, this is going to take more than 4 minutes, but this is really important. We're talking about millions of dollars here, and in my opinion, the most important economic development tool available to the city. The way tax increment financing works is if we have a piece of property that somebody has a project for, let's say it's bare ground that's taxed at $20,000, and the project driver is proposing something that will make the taxable valuation $120,000. The increment is the taxes that the city will collect on that $100,000, the difference between what it was taxed at prior to the project and the difference afterwards. And under classical TIF, the city's allowed to borrow against that expected future revenue. And the reason this is an economic development tool is because Mr. Developer maybe says, well, I would do this project and it's going to make me money and it's going to add tax base for the community, but I need this infrastructure from the city. You know, there's no street to it. I need a street to it. Or I need natural gas. I need to pay Mid-American Energy to bring natural gas to me. And TIF allows us to borrow against that expected future revenue, have the money now so we can do the project. It doesn't, otherwise the city would have to raise property taxes on everybody else to come up with that money. So it really saves the existing taxpayers from having to pay for development. In the case of Womble Third Edition, we borrowed the city. I include myself. I'm not currently a resident. I have lived in town, but I live south of town, but I have a business here in town. You probably are mostly where my wife and I and Mitchell Kearns have a law office here in town. And I would venture to say that I spend more time in this town than maybe some people who sleep here and work somewhere else. But that project was expected to be completed by June of 2024. We didn't complete it until sometime in 2025. And we had good documentation that we missed out on 20 homes that would have been built if the lots had been available in 2024. Which resulted in us losing out in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $90,000 of property tax revenue just for that year. Now, that was for property tax year that's based on valuation January 1, 2025. Those 20 houses are also not there for January 1, 2026. So we're into 2 years of lost revenue from those homes. There was, and I think everyone on SEED would concur that the primary culprit for that delay was the primary contractor, McAninch. And to a lesser degree, their subs, but their subs were reportable to them. And that contract provided for $500 per day liquidated damages if the contract wasn't completed on time. And poor Snowbrook, who I have tremendous respect for, I've known him as long as I've been involved with the city of Stuart, and I told him maybe second to Jim Henderson, he probably knows more about the infrastructure of this town than anyone else. And I bear him absolutely no ill will. This is strictly a business proposition, a decision that the city council needs to make. He made a very commendable argument that we were entitled to the full amount of liquidated damages. I've forgotten the number, somewhere in the neighborhood of $187,000. I stood up at the meeting where the contractor appeared and said, well, we had these excuses. Primarily, their excuse was, well, we had added on to the project. And we think 98,000 is a fair amount of liquidated damages. And I suggested that rather than fight about this, a reasonable compromise number was $152,000. The council accepted $100,000 of liquidated damages. Now, there were two components to those liquidated damages. One was additional work that the engineer did during that extended period of time. And the other factor was the almost $90,000 of lost property tax revenue. So the city council decided to settle for $100,000. I was a little disappointed that Forrest didn't represent the city's position more strongly, but I understand he has to work with all these contractors on different projects in different communities. But the fact remains, $100,000 is what we compromised for in order to try to make the city whole for that long delay, during which time the construction market completely changed and we did not get 20 houses built this year. This issue was discussed at length by the SEED organization, and after discussion, the recommendation was made that 30% of that should go to compensate the engineer. Now, Councilperson Nelson rightly pointed out that McAninch, when they added on that additional work, didn't ask for any additional time at that point. And And for good reason. We had bid that project in two pieces, because we were afraid that doing the whole piece was gonna be more than what the city could afford. And we went right up to the max. We spent about as much money as we could on this project. And that, in fact, turned out to be the case. We had enough money for the more expensive part, which was the eastern part, including Tibbin Way, because the city council expressed a priority for having another outlet to Northeast Second Street. And I'm glad of it. I'm glad that as we're building these new homes, the cement trucks don't have to come up Foley and drive all the way down Northeast Second Street to get to the homes. But it was the more expensive part of the project is the eastern part of that project, where the ground gets much rougher. And Forrest and Chip came back after we accepted the base bid and said, well, we don't have enough money to do all the houses along Tiernan Trail, but we could do some of them for not much more money and get a lot more lots, and that reduced the price per lot. And Macinich said they were willing to do it for, I think we prorated what they had bid. They had already bid it. I mean, they were planning to do that project if we had accepted both bids. The reasons for the delays were, I think that Macinich thought they could get away with it. And I'm a little disappointed with the council. I think we let them off too easy, but that's just my opinion. You guys wear the big boy boots, have to make the vote. So I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to point out that just as Macinich submitted a bid and said we can do it by this time for this much money, Mr. and Kim also said we can do the engineering on this project for $264,000. Sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but they do a lot of work. And Forrest documented they did do additional work, but that was a not to exceed contract. So it would be within the council's rights to say, well, sorry, we're going to keep the $100,000 for what we're out on this. Seed's recommendation is that we split the pain. Seed feels like if it weren't for us, that project still wouldn't be done. As I said, it's a volunteer organization, and I wish John Schwinger could have been here tonight. He had a prior obligation. He really bird-dogged this project. He lives out there and can keep an eye on things. Kevin Sargent knows construction, and he knows when stuff isn't being done right, notices it. And we just didn't feel like we were getting the support either from the city employees, quite frankly, or from the engineer in terms of taking Macinich to task and making sure that this project got done. And I am quite concerned about the financial position that this has put the city in. A lot of the tightness that you're feeling in the budget now, I think, relates back to that. And then $9 million is a lot to borrow. 30% wasn't my recommendation. I won't say if mine was higher or lower, but that's what the group decided to recommend. You guys have the full range. You can give him I've forgotten, the additional 95,000 or whatever. And as I said, we appreciate Forrest a lot. He comes to a lot of city council meetings and listens to a lot of stuff and provides valuable information. He did not include his time on the additional request for funds, but Seed feels like the larger percentage of those liquidated damages need to go to the city to help fill in the hole that's left by the delay in getting those houses built. And I would gladly entertain any questions. And Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it up to you if you want me to go ahead and talk about the other item that I wanted to discuss, or if you want to give Forrest a chance to respond, or we'll take this. I can do it either way. It's up to you.
Sure. Since we're on this item, let's go ahead and let Forrest respond if he has a response.
Sure.
Okay?
Forrest Aldershot, Beatstring Kim. I've been the city engineer for, I don't know, over 30 years. So I've been coming to a lot of council meetings over the years. So as I spoke at the December meeting, just put it out there for the council, for their consideration. Whatever amount the council decides is fine with me, fine with Beatstring Kim. Just threw out, you know, the justification for where we were at, but I didn't know about the $30,000 amount until I saw it in the council packets. I'd be fine with that if that's the way the council wants to go. Looking to just kind of move on and go on to the next thing, which is asphalt overlaying of some streets this summer. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if there's any questions about that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Coach. Okay, I guess, that's what we proposed to us last meeting, and then Steve wanted the opportunity to have the take on. So we made the final call as a council. Go ahead.
So, and please help me out, Corey and Craig, because everybody else is new on this. And you guys can help me out too, because I don't have a real good memory. But when we were discussing the numbers, I know, Forrest, you had mentioned that Beatstring Kim was gonna be out some money too, but I don't remember that as being part of the discussion to include that number in that summit. All the numbers that we talked about, I thought that was strictly coming back to the city of Stuart. And I think you just said here that Forrest did not include his time on the initial request. Was that correct? Was
At
that-
all. I
Never.
mean, this
Oh,
initial.
at all, until we got, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
Yeah,
you.
so what Warren was referring to is all of my time on all of this past when they were supposed to be done, I donated that time to the city of Stuart. I did it on my own time.
Okay,
So that's not, I gave the city a whole bunch of ream of hours from people, and that was other staff members at Beatstring Kim. It was not, I'm not listed in there. So that's what Warren is referring to. When we were talking though that evening at the December council meeting, it was kind of a holistic number. We weren't necessarily breaking that out between, what was engineering and what was, the contractor. I mean, it was kind of, we were talking about holistic numbers, not how the pieces of that.
so I guess my question to my other council members that were here discussing that, were you under that impression that those numbers that we were discussing was just for Stuart, the liquidated damages for Stuart, or that it included money for the contractor? Because I was not under the impression it included any money for the contractor.
No, nothing for the
The
contractor.
money came from the contractor.
Money came from the contractor.
It goes all to the city.
No, but I mean,
100,000.
yeah, I know they paid it, but I mean, going back to Beatstring Kim, maybe that's what I should say. I didn't know those numbers included that money going back to Beatstring Kim. I thought it was just for the city.
Yes. Under the
Okay.
city, yeah.
Because I think if we had, known that you were going to ask for some, because I think, I don't know, for me, it came as a surprise that we were being asked for 95,000. We may have not settled on that 100,000.
Yes.
I know there was a comment made kind of to the effect that anytime, you get attorneys involved, the attorneys get paid and nobody else. And I kind of based my thought on like, well, let's settle it. They had 98, let's get 100. If we can, we got 100, so we're done. And then we don't have to pay attorneys, and they get most of the money. I think for me, if I had known that you were going to ask for any kind of money, either, whatever, I think we might have spent the time to take that to litigation, because I know Makinich said they were ready to go to litigation that night, you know, to try to get a higher amount. I don't know, maybe we would have, I can't answer for you guys, but I just didn't know, so.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. I thought in the documents I was clear on all that, but, you know, maybe that's my fault in not communicating that it was, I think it was, seed was, we came up with 85 for seed and 95 for V and K, and that's where the 170 something came from.
I already stopped you there. There's no money for seed.
Oh, sorry,
I-
seed, not seed.
I try
Yeah.
to make this clear. Seed is not part of the city. We don't work for the city. We do get some funding for taking care of the soccer fields, which we probably wouldn't do if we had a decent Parks and Rec organization, but,
Yeah,
I think it was
apologize,
perceived
Warren.
on Facebook that somehow we as members of SEED get some kind of benefit out of this.
Yeah, I'm
I-
sorry, I apologize, Warren,
Yeah.
I mislabeled that, it was
But-
85 for missed opportunities that the city did not receive for the homes being sold. It's
Okay.
not seed.
And you know,
sorry.
it's just as well that maybe I didn't understand where the numbers were coming from. I saw we had certain time frame, and it was this amount for this time frame, and this amount for time frame. I didn't say in this time frame, you know, this amount will, you know, Veenstrom Kim's asking for this amount out of that. So I'm not gonna speak for you two, because that was my perception, that it was all coming to the city on that, so.
And that's the way I took it as well, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So, yeah, I didn't read deep into it, but that's the perception that I got.
When it was
as well.
explained,
Yeah.
that's what I got from
Yeah.
it,
I
so.
guess when I read that packet, cause that was my first packet.
Okay.
I did see the difference there.
Okay.
I don't know about Craig, but.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I do remember in all of our discussions, you know, when we started talking about liquidated damages, you know, Forrest, you had mentioned numerous times, well, I've put in all these amount of hours, you know, that's added up to, you know, you were just throwing ballpark figures out. And towards the end there, you're like, yeah, I think we're probably around here. And, you know, the city's probably seeing around here. And, you know, we're like, the decision was kind of whatever we get, yeah, we can look at throwing money your way, or we could keep it all. It was kind of an up in the air, just nothing that was, we're telling you, you need to pay us sort of decision. It was, if you guys want to take some of that liquidated damages and pass them on to us, great, because we have put in these hours, but if not, great, we continue on.
Yeah, that's a
So-
correct summation, thank you.
Okay. So what kind of action you guys thinking, or which direction you wanna go to move this along?
What's your normal percent for engineering fees? Is it 30% or is it? Just that, you'd be okay with that though, right?
Engineering fees typically are, now this would be, you know, all the way through, design, construction services, having somebody out there watching the work. Typical is somewhere around 12 to 15%. That's kind of the typical. And you know, the fees that we came up were, you know, the problem we have is when you're doing on-site review and you're doing construction services, you know, you assume so many pay estimates and so many hours out there, and if it's one guy with a shovel digging one shovelful at a time, then you have a person out there watching him with one shovel rather than, you know, a whole crew, you know, with 10 guys and all the equipment. It makes it very difficult. And so, you know, the time that I had in there was it was just the time after when they were supposed to be done.
So, the only reason I brought that up is because I don't want to disforce on, because I know you do a great job for the city. Just kind of give you maybe another thing to think about is if 30% didn't cut it, then maybe 15 or somewhere in the middle. So, you know, just that's all I wanted to get out of that is kind of what the ordinary cost was. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we will receive 100,000, and see that the recommendation to us. And you guys need more time to make that decision. I don't think first we'll close the office or anything we don't make a decision tonight. So if the new council would like more time to read it, look at it, and if you're familiar with it and you want to go with any of the recommendation, we're fine. So you guys tell me what do you need? You need more time, we can discuss it in the next meeting. We're gonna make a decision tonight and
Mike, did you have a number or percentage in mind?
Well, I was kind of leaning towards the 15 on that. You know, like I said, and due to my lack of reading into what you had given us, I guess for me it would have been better to have that clarity that yes, we will be asking for some money out of the liquidated damages. Just so we know, we didn't even need a number, you know, or we could have worked better on a number. But I was totally under the impression that was all coming back to the city of Stuart because that's what we're losing out on. And I get that you're losing out on stuff too, so that's just what I was thinking, you know, or I'm okay because
50%.
that's my discussion.
Mr. Mayor, do you have an opinion on this? I know you can't vote, but you can still talk about it.
No, I'm gonna turn it back over to the council, just vote on the information that has been presented to you from, Warren and Forrest. And Forrest did provide us pretty good Warren provided us information, or Seed has, sorry. So it's kind of up to you guys, whatever you guys want to do. But if you want more time, we can table this. If you guys want to think about it, like Ash said, I don't think they're gonna close their doors over this, currently, but if you guys want more time, we can sure allow more time to keep moving.
I was at the meeting that this happened. I feel like I read the minutes. I don't know what additional information I would want if we had more time, so I'm comfortable if we were to make a decision tonight.
Well, I think Councilmember Calvin proposed 15%.
Are you making that motion?
Just for clarity, it should be a dollar amount, $15,000.
Sure,
Yeah.
15,000.
That makes sense.
15% or 15,000, yes.
You know what, I will make that motion just so we can get moving along here
Okay.
and we'll
Moved
see
by
what
Calvo.
happens. Yeah, to pay, Beamster and, $15,000 out of the, liquidated damages.
Okay.
Okay, need a second?
I'd second that.
Second by Russell. How do you vote? Cobble?
Yes.
Yes.
Cabs? English?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Okay. Number B, Central Mart, the TIP application. Warren, I'll turn this back over to you if you're fine with that.
Yeah, I was just looking around to see if Matt was here. I thought,
You didn't make it.
he didn't make it,
You
yeah.
didn't make it.
Again, quite a bit of chatter about this on Facebook, I'm told. The first thing I want to make clear is that where do I want to start on this? Yeah, I want to start with this. The 65% tax rebate that Central Mart is what they asked for in their application. Seed reviews these, we don't come up with these TIF applications with the obvious exception of the housing project. That's something that was initiated. Eric Tiernan picked up the idea and I jumped on board. And that very much has been an effort that Seed initiated. Chip and Forrest were immeasurable help in making that project, in my opinion, successful. But there are numerous TIF projects that people bring forth on their own accord. Seed reviews those applications at your request. That was a procedural addition that you asked for, and we have a lot of expertise on Seed, and I think it was a good idea. There have been a number of applications that we've received, and we tell them this is incomplete, or they haven't done enough homework, and we send them back to work on it some more. Because there have been cases where people have brought TIF applications before the council, and there just wasn't sufficient information for the council to make a good decision. So that is Seed's role in this TIF application project. I described earlier how TIF traditionally works, and tax increment financing is something that exists throughout the United States. All but one state offer tax increment financing in some form or another. Because it is such a valuable and flexible development tool. Traditionally, it's to borrow money against future expected revenue to do things now. This city hall and the library were built with TIF funds. The downtown storm sewer and infrastructure improvement, that was all done with TIF funds. And typically it's in that matter, borrow money and then it gets paid back as the property taxes come in. What Central Mart is asking for is similar to tax abatement. And the Seed has said in the past that they're opposed to using tax abatement as a development tool. Adele has used tax abatement a lot for their housing development. And it's created a lot of hard feelings because you're essentially giving the people that built a new home, and in some cases very nice homes, a free ride in terms of paying for city services. Those city services still have to be paid for, and so the existing homeowners end up carrying the load. And that's primarily the reason that Seed has an unfavorable view toward tax abatement. This is very similar to tax abatement. What they're saying is, well, you don't have to lend us any money now. And a lot of people think of TIF money as free money. It's a loan. It's free in the sense that the city borrows it at very low interest rates, and typically the developer, they may not receive the actual benefit themselves. It may go into infrastructure like streets or utilities or something. But they end up paying that back with their property taxes. What they're saying here is, well, you don't have to borrow any money, but we would like you to set up a TIF so that every year when we get our property tax, you give us 65% of that back through the TIF structure. So it works just like a tax abatement. And as I understand their table correctly, they're asking for abatement both on property taxes and the local option sales tax, which I'm really uncomfortable with that piece of it. If you decide to pursue this, I would carve that part out. The reason being, Central Mart believes that the sales will be almost exclusively new sales, and they won't be sales that they've cannibalized from other competing businesses. We don't know whether that's gonna be the case or not. You know, a new developer is gonna be all sunshine and rainbows. And to the extent that we lose a sale at Casey's that goes to the Travel America, we would actually be losing revenue. Instead of getting that 1 cent on the dollar, we'd be getting 35 cents on that same dollar just because it was spent in a different place. But that's kind of a side issue. The reason this is a consideration at all, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert on TIF, although I feel like I should be. It's been 30 years. Ash keeps grinning because Forrest and Ash and I have all been here about the same amount of time. So, we're right up against our bonding limit. And when you borrow money for TIF financing, that counts against your bond limit. And there's a reason for that, as we just talked about with the housing development. If those houses don't get built, we still have to pay that $9 million back. And that's gonna come from the general tax revenue. So that borrowing limit, that's a hard cap. And we're bumping right up against it, as you guys well know. So they're saying this is a way we could use TIF to attract this business. What SEED recommends is not that you accept this per se, or accept it at all. There's reason to believe they're going to go ahead and do something there, whether they get help or not. They've bought a lot of land, they've invested a lot of money already. I think what Matt has told us is that he's been and I have not, I should also make clear, I know Inder Singh. I possibly introduced the idea of TIF to him. I was involved when he purchased the what was then a Phillips 66 gas station and convenience store. I represent the sellers. And I knew Inder Singh was a successful businessman, had convenience stores throughout northwest, north central Iowa, and found out that his wife was from West Des Moines and tried to talk him into moving to Stuart. But I brought him, the day of the sale, brought him up to City Hall so we could visit with Ash, and Ash explained how TIF worked to him. What Matt has been told is that if they don't get this assistance, they'll still do a project, but it'll be much smaller. Take that for what it's worth. So, obviously we have the same problems with tax abatement. Somebody on Facebook said they didn't know how much TIF QuickStar got. Well, QuickStar didn't get any TIF. And you will find this as city council people. Opinions and facts are as varied as the grains of sand on the beach. And you can't, just because somebody thinks something is some way doesn't make it true. And you have to take that into consideration. If I could summarize SEED's recommendation, it's that if you do decide to do something along these lines, it doesn't have to be for 20 years. 20 years is the maximum. They're wanting a 65% rebate of both property taxes and local option sales tax for 20 years. That would be the longest they could go. What do we say to QuickStar? These are low margin businesses. A few pennies per sale make a big difference. And you're giving my competitor, my big old competitor across the road, 65% tax refund. Where's mine? And the city can't afford to do that for QuickStar and Casey's and Maverick. And even if you did give it to them, then the grocery store would say, well, our biggest competitor is QuickStar, where's our tax abatement? And then the downtown businesses would say, well, how come the businesses out at the interstate get, you see where that would lead. the only way I would, and you have the full range. You could say 50% for 10 years. You could say 7 years on a declining scale, 65% the first year, and then 55, 45, 35. There are a lot of different options. You know, it's numbers. You can do an infinite number of combinations. My suggestion would be if you want to do something along these lines, that you go ahead and alert bond counsel so they could get started on this, but authorize a committee or your economic development director or somebody to negotiate something on behalf of the city, because you need to show a public benefit. And I think maybe Matt put some examples in his summary. I was counting on him to talk about that, but in terms of, if you don't know already, I'm very passionate about getting a pedestrian, bicycle, recreational trail bridge over the interstate. It might be the last project I get done in this town. I think it's important for no other reason. There's been one death on that bridge. I've had more close calls than I can count, and the amount of pedestrian and bicycle traffic over that bridge is only going to increase as the south side of the town continues to develop. I think it do a marvelous job of tying what will be a new and developing part of the town in with the existing part of the town. V&K projected that doing a separate, not a cantilever trail, but a separate standalone bridge over the interstate would cost $2 million. It's probably going to be more than that now, but let's say it was $2 million. We could go to Central Mart and say, well, we will give you a tax rebate, but we want you to commit to investing $250,000 in the pedestrian bridge, or an eighth of the cost, or whatever. I know Councilmember Kaba was very interested in getting natural gas to the south side of the interstate. We pursued that because at the time, Los Altos was interested in perhaps building a new restaurant, where Quick Star certainly is. And the fact that we didn't have natural gas was a showstopper for them. They use natural gas at their facilities on this side of town, and they say, if we have to use LP or propane, our equipment lasts max 10 years, and it's 20 plus if we use natural gas, so that was a game changer for them. Again, I was going to count on Matt, but I think the cost they quoted, Mid-American quoted to us, was $400,000. We thought they would pay part of that because they would be getting new customers and potentially spur growth south of the interstate. And they said, well, unless you can guarantee us so many houses, because we make our most money on residential service, or a big industrial consumer that's going to use a lot of gas, we're not interested in participating. And SEED recommended against the city trying to do that on their own. But this could be a deal where, and I'm always looking for win-wins. I mean, I think this would be beneficial to Central Mart too, if they could use natural gas instead of propane, and Quick Star would be quick to switch over from LP to natural gas as well. So you could say, well, we'll do a tax abatement, but you've got to pay to get gas under the interstate. That would be another example. All I'm saying is, you don't want to make a gift to these folks. They're dangling 80 or 90 full-time equivalents. I often exaggerate. I wouldn't bank on that number, but it would be a big deal. And that's a benefit to the community. It draws families to the community if they know that, well, I've got a job in Des Moines, but my spouse could sure use a job here in Stuart. Having additional jobs would definitely be an economic addition to the community. And we're aware of another application in the pipeline. And again, because of where we are on our debt limit, this is really the only TIF tool we have. But I'm trying to stress to you, you need to be tough negotiators. And it's hard when you're a committee, but that's, I hope that's the gist of the recommendation that you got from SEED. It's not that we're advising to, yeah, give this the thumbs up. We're also not advising to give it the thumbs down. I think net, this would be a positive project for the community, and I think something will happen regardless. But that would be my characterization of what SEED's recommendation is on the TIF at this point, application. And if you want to table this one too, frankly, I thought there would be a representative here from Central Mark saying, we need to do this, we need to do it right now. If they're not here, just consider this background information. It's a big deal. I mean, $21 million project.
Warren, is this transferable? So 5-6 years in, they sell out to somebody else? How's that look?
It would depend on how you worded the development agreement. And the bond council generally does a pretty good job on that, but city still has to look over their shoulder, and hopefully your city attorney looks over their shoulder. Just for educational purposes, I'll talk about a project where we used TIF funds to pay folks who had dilapidated homes next to them. The TIF funds were used to, I don't know if they were used to acquire the property, but they were used to pay the demolition costs. And we got a lot of dilapidated houses torn down, but I was part of the community too. We failed to have a minimum assessment agreement as part of that development agreement. All it says is you get the house torn down and we'll pay for it. And we ended up with a lot of vacant lots, which is not what was intended. We weren't trying to just create bigger lots for folks who were sick of the dilapidated house next to them. And if we had had a minimum assessment agreement, we would at least ensured that homeowner ended up paying for that demolition. As it turned out, it was more of a gift. But that's the kind of thing you need to look for. When you get those development agreements, I know they're complicated and full of legalese. They're really important to read and understand because those are the Bible in terms of what the TIF agreement is. The developer, they're going to want it to run with the land. I would say it would be in the city's interest to make it personal to that particular entity, and if they pull up stakes, then the TIF agreement's done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you bet.
Can I ask you a
Yeah.
Can I ask you, and maybe this is like a chip question, but I'll throw it out there if you know it. So if we rebate them 65% and 35% comes to us, do we get the full 35, or does that still get split up between the school, the county, and us, and we actually only get around 15%?
That's an excellent question. And you're right, I think that's a chip question, but I do want to talk just briefly about that. One of the things in Iowa that makes TIF really attractive is the way it was set up. We were able to borrow against not just the property tax increment that was for the city, but also the amount that came in for the county and for the school. And I think it's been said on Facebook that that's costing the school tax dollars. That is not true currently. Currently, the state comes in and backfills. The city and county are invited to at least one hearing on every single TIF application we do. They always sign off because more development is good for the especially more houses. It's good for school enrollment, and it doesn't cost them currently. I'm a little afraid that as part of the property tax reform that the legislature wants to accomplish this year, that they might cut into or eliminate that, backfill. And I'm not sure how that would impact what you're asking about. But the other point I wanted to make that was not in the Central Mart application is typically we have the applicant pay for administrative fees. And a big part of that is bond counsel. And in their spreadsheet showing them getting the rebate back, I did not see a deduction for the administrative fees. And you definitely want to make sure, if you do this, that gets backed out of the very first or as many rebates, so the city isn't stuck paying that. Right, that's probably as much as anybody can digest in one night.
All right, any discussion on this from council?
I mean, I think from our perspective, we need to remember and really look at, one of the big things we've been talking about is consistency and uniformity and, not picking and choosing who gets what and who doesn't. And we need to make sure we keep that in mind on this decision, how we approach that and what's gonna be beneficial for the city, because yes, that's a huge project. There's gonna be potential job growth. I mean, their numbers are all over the place. I mean, one factor said, 70 to 80. When you actually count up the jobs, it's a little less or a little more. I don't remember what it was when I looked at it. So what they provide in their addendum is different than what was on the original application. And we all know that not every place is always fully staffed. So what will that actually look like in the end? We don't know. And what does that look at the impact to the existing businesses? We don't know that answer. So we just need to keep that all in mind and figure out how we can make this the best decision going forward. And obviously, I think we need a lot more discussion. We need discussions with Chip and kind of go from there on what we need to do.
I agree, Chip and Matt up
Yeah.
here,
Yes,
to
obviously.
discuss this, I know we were handed the email from a couple people, that had, questions and concerns and very valid ones
Mhm.
on that, when you're giving away, over half back to a developer that may not be spending it in the community, and I appreciate Warren's comments, on what could we get from them, a walking bridge, or, are they gonna put a turn lane in, over there, because Quick Start put theirs in and they paid for it, so, and to your point, you had one company ask and they were told we don't have any program. So when I heard this come out, I was like, I thought we didn't have that, I get the scope of it's really large, and maybe that kind of, I don't know, moth to flame type thing, I don't know. But we got the offer. I don't see why we couldn't go back and say, hey, maybe we need to do a little bit different. And I think we need to spend some time on this to consider a lot of different options.
We need to refer to Chip. Chip usually is good at this by giving us so many scenarios of what the impact is if we give 65, if we give 50, and all this stuff.
Right.
And what the future gonna be with that decision of abatement. So, and that's normally what we do. We've done abatement before, and we give it to Chip to study it, and we communicate with the city bond attorney to give his legal opinion about whether it can be done or not. So I'd like a motion to refer the item to Chip and bond attorney with the help of Matt facilitating these things.
Can I, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So I have the same concerns that Craig has and Mike has. I also have this concern around our emergency service support of a company that large would start immediate, even if the taxes don't come in for 2 or 3 years down the road. So in making a motion like this, there is still room to have these conversations while Chip's working?
Absolutely, because actually, that's what my take on these things is, we go with a project like that, we need to have more police officer and more ambulance and more of everything. Because, so we need to take that in consideration. I'll be delivering that to Chip to have it in his studies that he's gonna bring back to us, and we can do that in February if he can. I can't speak on behalf of Chip because he has a lot to do, but I think I will ask him if he can bring it in February to talk about it.
One more point, do we think it's advisable to have representation from the council as part of these discussions? You know, so that way we're better informed versus, you know, secondary information coming back. Not saying there's anything wrong with secondary information, but to be in there and have that, it's just such a huge project.
It probably wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt because then, you know, you have two people that are gonna, okay, this is the way I understand it, bring it back and educate, you know.
Yep.
In common people tongue, not Chip tongue, because sometimes it gets a little
Yes.
crazy.
So you would like to have two council members?
I mean, I think having representation, if possible, would be a good idea.
Good, you know, so any council member would like to be one of the two?
I mean, I can make availability to do
Okay.
so.
Okay, awesome.
Zach, why don't you get on there?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so we have a motion to refer the item to Chip and bond attorney and have two council members, Zach and Russell, involved with the process and the facility. We got a facility that's in Stuart, Matt Fund.
Who made the motion? Craig? Is that your motion, Craig, or who made that motion? Or is you
I
need
mean, I think
somebody?
Ash kind of
Or you
made
need
that.
somebody, you need somebody to make.
Can't make a motion, but I can give you.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
I would make the motion to refer this to Chip, to refer this to the bond attorney, to have two council members, myself and Zach, to be part of this discussion along with Matt Funk.
To
and
facilitate.
To facilitate everything.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Second, by,
Did you get all that?
yeah.
Deputy clerk?
Yeah, she can ask me
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay.
Okay.
Need a second?
I
believe.
Oh,
Second,
sorry,
but-
Cobal,
Sorry.
second?
Calba, second.
Yep, how do you vote? Cobal?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And Russell?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on, number 11, 100 Northwest Second Street, the Duncan Construction. I do see that they're in the audience here. Do you guys want to come up and talk a little bit here?
Okay, so we are finishing, Abby Duncan, West Duncan. We're finishing the exterior of the building. What we have to do now is get the handicap ramp set, and then we need to cover back up the stairs. That stuff is on city property. Therefore, we need the right-of-way permit to do so, what we need to do to finish everything out there. I'll be honest, I wasn't really prepared. We got this drawing about 20 minutes ago, so I can email it to you for you to pass out.
Still warm.
I can pass it out now. It's the regular handicap requirements, 1 and 12, 4 feet wide. And then the stairs, as we had already discussed, and same thing, I can send pictures. It's a stairwell cover, like if you think of like an egress window cover. Fancier, tinted black, has a handle, and then it has the railing that'll go around it. That railing will match the handicap railing, which will also match the HVAC railing that goes around the backside. Do I have a picture of the railing for you? No, because I cannot make up my mind and everything at once too expensive. It'll be some sort of black, so same thing, once we get those final decisions, I just kind of wanted to be ready when weather was ready, that we could just keep kind of moving forward. Also something that Jim and I had originally talked about on that stairwell cover, there's gonna have to be something a little bit built up on the side closest to the sidewalk for it to lay down on. So whether that's brick or concrete, or if there's a preference of look on that, to be honest, concrete, if we could just put everything back and, I promise we'll make it look nice, I just can't quite, again, I can give you the, dimension pictures, and, we have the email copy, coming soon, but that's kind of what, now that railing is not what the railing will look like.
So while you guys are looking at that, not to cut you off,
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
Before Jim did retire, he did have conversations with the Duncans, and he did advise City Hall that he was in conversations, and he was because that's gonna be out on city right away. And Jim felt comfortable, he did, say that he was comfortable with what their plans were, to move forward. So just to kind of give you guys a
And being
insight.
frank, Kim and I have had a few different discussions, and the handicap ramp is non-negotiable, it has to go in. So, I did put in my few little things for that, but not an option.
So that's, as the mayor said, that they here to have a motion to accept the right-of-way ramp proposal. That is, the discussion with Jim that he was good with it.
And my understanding is we just need the, permission for the ramp, because that's in the right of way, and the stairs and the railing were previously there, so we're just putting back what was already there. So there shouldn't be anything, that just should be how that has been.
Okay.
So if the council is comfortable, we need a motion.
We'll make the motion to approve the right-of-way permit.
Second that.
Second by us.
All right, how do you vote? Caldwell?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Ingers?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The
And then,
building
do you
looks
want me to email
awesome,
these?
By the way,
Do you want me to email these to you, or email this to you? Okay. Thank
Like
you.
how it's coming together?
looks great.
Good,
Yes.
good.
And then I noticed we're on there again, which I
Yep.
wasn't aware of that also. I don't know if we're supposed to do anything with that, if
Yes.
that was a Matt Funk thing.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's a great, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
They applied for the CALS grant, and what we do, we've done that with the hotel Stuart here, that when we receive the money from the grant, we give it to them. That's how we've done it with the hotel Stuart. And since this is about opportunity, that we've asked for a solution, that when we receive the money, we give it to them.
Okay, so I can move that we would,
Yes. I move the resolution.
approve resolution 26-016.
Yes.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Nelson. How do you vote? Caldwell?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Ingers?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Okay. Number 12, employment attorney proposal. I'll let Ash take over.
Our human resources lady that we contracted with her retired last month. And she gave us names of attorneys that they do similar things to what she does. I'm just here to inform you that we'll be seeking a proposal and bring it back to the council to choose which one you want to deal with.
Okay.
Unfortunately, she retired and she was one of the kind in the state of Iowa, does on her own.
Okay.
Own office. So now she gave us few names of attorneys that specialize in that employment.
Okay.
So that's just for your information.
So I guess, can I make a comment on that?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, obviously, we had her availability to answer HR questions, but also to look at helping us revise and write, what's the word I'm looking for? Employee manuals, that's not the right word.
Handbooks.
Handbooks, yes, thank you. Is that also gonna be available in this proposal?
Yes.
Okay, 'cause I definitely think that needs to be included in there.
Yes. So you can make a motion to seek proposals. That's if you want, or you can just direct me to seek proposals. It doesn't make any difference. So you've directed me to seek proposal. Okay, we can go to the next item.
Okay, 13, All Saints Edition, lots 32 and 33, transfer of detention basins to City of Stuart. I will turn this over to Forrest Aldrich.
So this has been going on for quite some time. So what we're talking about is in the All Saints subdivision at the corner of Second and St. Mary's in the southwest corner, there is a stormwater detention basin. It's a dry basin with grass in the bottom of it. And the way we had set that originally up in the All Saints subdivision, gosh, Warren, how long ago was that? Quite a while ago. 17, 18?
2018, I think, yeah.
Was that those basins would be owned by the adjoining property owners, so the adjoining property owners would take care of that basin. The city is having a hard time selling the lot that is to the west of that basin, that is currently owned by Seed. And then the lot to the south is currently owned by Jordan and Morgan Marks. And the discussion that we've had with the council is that the only way that we can sell that empty lot to the west of the stormwater detention basin is if we take that detention basin and we take it and have it be a city-owned detention basin. So it'd be owned and maintained by the city. And so there were discussions with Jim before he retired to, you know, he might look at doing different seed mixtures. You know, they would make sure that it would be mowed. Maybe if different seed mixtures wouldn't have to be mowed as often. And so the council directed us to put together these plats, transferring that empty lot, the basin, over to the city, and then the Marks property, the part of that's with them, to the city as well. So that's the plat of surveys that we put together. The next steps would be to get legal representation to put together the deeds and the legal proceedings and the recording of these two parcels to the city. So that's really what's before you tonight, is to continue moving forward. You know, approving these plat surveys would continue moving forward with proceeding with taking over that basin. And then the second part of that was directing the city attorney, I'm not quite sure who that is sometimes, but directing the city attorney then to create the deeds to transfer that property.
Okay. So we need two motions on that then?
One motion
Just
for
one
A
motion?
and B.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve these plat surveys and to move forward with everything.
So the motion to approve A and B, two plats of survey, and then tell me to the city attorney,
Yes.
okay? Any second?
I'll second that.
Second by
Cabs?
Cabs.
How do you vote? Cobal?
Yes.
Cabs?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Board.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 14, Cemetery Committee, reinstatement. I'll turn it over to Caps and Nelson, whoever wants to start first, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Katie had to leave. Oh, she left Mike. Okay.
Take one.
So, Trevor and I have been talking with Katie and Mike and some other folks that were involved in the cemetery committee, and we understand why it was disbanded. We're not really here to kind of rehash that decision, but we were wondering about an appetite for reinstating the cemetery committee with some bumpers and some boundaries to make sure that we don't get into a situation that maybe we were in when it was decided to be disbanded. And in our conversations with Mike, and Mike, I'll let you give some of these details, but we do feel there are two issues maybe that we could address, or areas that we could make improvement in. One of those is that, you know, a lot of the work that the cemetery committee did really relieved some of the calls to City Hall, some of the work that is kind of been offloaded on to City Hall or City Council members with the dissolution of the committee. And then second, Mike has some, I wouldn't say they're huge concerns, but in looking at the document that we have, committee could put us in a better position maybe for grants, other opportunities. This handbook that is attached here, you'll see, is from 2019. There's some revisions that need to be made. We talked a lot about, there's some fee structures in here. There's some missing fees that maybe have come about since the committee disbanded that we're not really addressing. Cremations, crematory benches, we don't really have any rules around those kind of things. So what we're asking for is just the ability for Mike and Katie Johnson. Mike is currently the cemetery I can't, liaison is the word I use, but I think I was told that's wrong. What's his title? Coordinator?
Coordinator,
Okay.
I believe it is.
Um, he already acts in that capacity, so I think what we would just like to ask is for them to have the ability to, come back to us with maybe some bylaws and, a proposal to get this back up and going in a way that is beneficial for the city. So Trevor, add what you need, or Mike?
No, I think you did a fantastic job. Just something I would add is that, like, trends tend to change, and Mike being on the forefront of some of those things, he'll be able to have us better prepared for those types of changes that could be coming down the line. And, yeah, but I think it'd be real beneficial to have.
Mike, you have anything?
No, I think they did a great job. I think one of the biggest things that I think needs to happen moving forward is just, and I think that kind of got off track with some, was just coming, anytime we make a decision within the committee, you know, that decision really can't be set in place until we come to the city council, get your blessing to go ahead and do that, you know, and I think that was kind of happening this last time, and that's where I think some of the downfalls came. So I think the biggest thing is getting something in place. You know, we can kind of move forward with this, but whatever we do, we have to have the blessing from city council. You know, I think that's the biggest thing.
I did neglect to share, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Sarah informed us or reminded me that we do understand, Mike understands, the committee would understand, there are some mowing contracts in place. So that would be something that work is already done through the extent of that contract. So just going into it knowing that there's some things that are in place and obviously there's not much leeway around those, so. Sorry.
Okay, no, I do. So I used to be the city cemetery liaison back in the day, and I wholeheartedly supported committees, you know. I'm not against a committee. I guess for me, you know, Mike does a good job out there. I've not heard any complaints come up to City Hall that have reached us, so somebody's doing a good job. Is it, I guess, you know, if there's missing stuff in this, I guess as the cemetery coordinator, you right now have the ability to bring that up to the city council. Are we just going to reinstate this just to have citizen input? Is that the main reason to do that? There may be issues, but how is having a committee going to do anything different than what Mike could do right now? Because I know we have just one person on Parks and Rec. We have one coordinator and people go to her, and then she brings it to us. Just like you said, you know, any committee cannot decide anything. It's our call on that. I don't know, just, can you kind of explain, is it more to get more citizen involvement, or?
You know, I think it's the citizen involvement and it just having, you know, kind of a group to bounce ideas off of. You know, I think the cemetery, the biggest thing we focused on was beautification. You know, we set the policies way back in, I think it was 2014, I think was the first handbook, because there was no guides. You know, and I think by doing so, I think it'll bring people back to, you know, we can kind of diffuse any problems that have come up. Yeah, it really hasn't come up because I have been diffusing them as they go. We had a vase here recently that was broke. Family was pretty upset about that. You know, I think having some of these and readdressing some of the paperwork we already have, you know, and being able to bounce these ideas off this committee. I thought the committee worked really good. You know, they had a fun time doing it, and they had a fun time trying to, you know, beautify that cemetery. We had a lot of great ideas that kind of dropped at the time, but we'd like to get those kind of reenacted too, you know, kind of put back in place. But, you know, that's basically what it is, trying to get people involved in the community. So, yeah.
No, I agree. Had a great bunch of people on there, you know, with those ideas, and you know, even back in the day, those rules and regulations were pretty rock solid. I can understand that, you know, you may need some updating on those. I don't have an issue now. I know we had passed kind of a thing on how committees are set up at one point. You remember that, Ash? So as long as we follow those, you know, I don't have an issue. I'll make the motion that you can reinstate it following the procedure set up on how committees are formed.
Yes. And I think Mike summed up that they can't make any decision.
No,
until they
you're
are
right.
together.
Yeah, we can add that. Also,
Yeah.
that you can use the existing paperwork as a guideline to put changes in.
Yep.
To, you know, subject to council approval.
Yes.
And I think what would be nice is to have, you know, still have a city council member involved in it as a liaison to come into the group. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, sure.
You know, they're familiar with a lot of rules that we're not gonna be privileged to. So, you know, I think working with one of the council members is gonna be beneficial. Yeah,
Do we have a cemetery liaison?
We do not,
Okay,
not currently.
all right.
Okay.
Russell, did you have something?
Yes, my question would be, so a few weeks ago, we met and we discussed, you know, trying to get more citizen involvement in our boards and committees. And we talked a lot about getting them to review their relevant sections of code and to make sure they're up to date. I don't know, do we really have anything defined in code for the cemetery committee? Is that something that should be in there? And if so, what do we need to update to help put any of these, these guardrails and bumpers as per se should be in there? Or is that more in these bylaws? Is that part of something we wanna make sure gets done if this is approved?
So when we looked into it, I think the answer is no. In the code, there's not a structure for a committee like this. Now, I don't know if there was at some point in time, but this book that we're looking at is just the rules and regulations of the cemetery. So I think to clarify my ask maybe a little further is to give Mike the ability to come back to us with those pieces, with bylaws on how this committee would work, what is their oversight, and also a project of the committee would then be to update these rules and regulations. So I'm not sure if that aligns with what your motion was, but I do think before we agree on a committee, and Mike is in agreement too,
Yeah.
that before we agree on a committee, that we need to first see the structure that Mike is thinking about and be able to evaluate that before giving a go-ahead to stand up a committee.
So let's amend that. So we would do something similar to what we did with the EMS advisory board. Give him permission to pursue this.
Yes.
Come up with whatever, the bylaws, I don't wanna say whatever, cause I know this goes in motion, you know. But, to come up with the bylaws, the structure, bring it back to the council for approval at that point, and then we can move forward. You might, also that we'll provide him with the structure on how, you know, how the committees got that. So, yeah, that's fine. We can do
Okay,
that.
that moved by Caldwell.
I'll second.
Any second?
Second by Hayward. How do you vote? Caldwell?
Yes.
Caps?
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Russell?
Yes.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
I was like, you're welcome.
All right, number 15, City Council Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics.
Okay, Neil mentioned last meeting that we need to research and see, and after we researched, we found out that in 2006, we passed Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics, and we decided to bring it back for the council to be able to read it and see if they need to change anything. That stuff has been approved and established, like Robert rules and all this stuff. This is things that the council operate on. It's for you to look at it. You don't need to decide on anything except just seeing that it has been approved in 2006. Well, most of you guys weren't around, you know, I wasn't born by then. But yes, we did pass it, we did approve it, and if you guys have, you wanna change it, we can. If you wanna, you see reasonable, just leave it in effect.
I appreciate this. I think it's good that maybe, we take some time to study it if there's changes or
Yes.
something that need to be made.
Let me know, and we can always amend.
Yeah.
That's,
Honestly.
but it's for you to see, because Mayor has brought it up, and wanted to see what's going on, and I visited with the mayor, and we decided to bring it to the council attention. Okay, you good?
All right. Thanks, Ed.
You're
All
welcome.
right, number 16, Stuart Economic Development Director Matt Funk. He is unable to attend tonight due to he is moving. So there is there is one item on his list about the application for residential tax abatement at 503 South Fremont Street. It's kind of hard to talk about because that is my property. So, but you guys do have the information in there. I'm sure Ash can answer some questions if you do have some questions about it.
Yeah, it's a program established a while ago, and Matt is trying to kind of take the application, go with the process that has been established before, and we're here to give you the application, give you what Matt is trying to work on. Since he's not here today, so I would say just allow him to proceed with the application. Good.
I do want to ask a question.
Yes.
I don't want to, I'm just going to ask it. So there was a council member that was getting some stuff from TIF. Is this the similar situation with an abatement that a city official may not be able to do? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
We can check, we talked about that stuff before, and the decision, I think that was on the utility side when we were discussing different issue related to that.
Okay.
And we said, when it comes, we will get opinion, we will ask, I can't give an answer because I'm not an attorney, but I can see information and move
Okay.
on,
I'm not against it, I just want us to be sure, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not trying to ruffle feathers or anything.
No,
but-
no, no.
But I
It's
just
a-
want us to make sure we're voting soundly,
Okay, we can,
on it is the
we
only
can
thing.
seek some information and
Okay.
get you back with response.
Okay.
Question, Ash.
Yes.
For reference, how long has this program been in effect and how many have taken advantage of it?
I think we had like couple, it's been for a while,
Okay.
so I can't give you the exact, but it's been for a while.
That's the same thing.
And I think we have couple,
Okay.
on file that they got it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's established, I think when Kristen Winslow was here, she established that, yeah.
Just very briefly, this program was copied from somewhere else, I don't remember where, but it was in response to complaints from owners of infill lots, that we were doing all this for the new development, there's nothing for us.
Yeah.
And it's limited, I mean, you heard what I thought about tax abatement. I guess the fact that it's limited to $75,000 of additional improvement gave the city council the confidence that this wasn't an abuse, it was an incentive, and like I say, the idea behind it was to give the infill, so we would have infill, because that's actually more valuable to the community, rather than just encouraging sprawl, so. That's the idea of it, to give a little tweak to help out the owners of a vacant lot or a lot that becomes vacant, give them an incentive to do something with it.
And due to the circumstances that it is my property, I didn't even know about this until Matt presented it, but I I would feel comfortable if we took it to, the attorneys, let them get their 2 cents on it. If it doesn't work out, totally fine. If it does, that's fine too. So that's totally up to the council and the lawyer on that deal.
I would just say, it is on the website, under, the city's website, under Stuart Development. There's a whole tab explaining it, but maybe, I don't know the answer either, Corey. So I think it's smart to check with Dewey and make sure it's copacetic, but having the mayor do it may help publicize the program.
Sure, yeah.
And maybe we get some more houses built, which I think that's what we need.
Yeah, we'll check and get an answer for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we,
Oh, one more.
I've been tough.
Yeah, sorry, one more
Okay.
thing to add. I know it wasn't on the agenda. I'll turn it over to Ash here, but
Yes.
go ahead.
We talked to, I announced my retirement with the utility board too, and Councilmember Russell asked if we can have a joint meeting with the utility to kind of see how you guys wanted to do the transition. So talk to the utility, and they would like to have a joint meeting, and we decided bags in on the side on Wednesday, 21st. Does that work with everybody, Wednesday, 21st?
What time?
5:30.
5:30?
Yes, and since we're getting you here, we don't want, because we have another meeting for the budget work session, was supposed to be on the 26th, so Mayor and I decided to make it one night, so you guys don't get tired of us. So we will have a joint meeting for the transition and the budget work session too, on the 21st.
Starting at 5:30.
It's starting at 5:30 and we'll go on. Okay?
All right.
Yep.
It's okay with everybody?
Yep.
Yep, I'm
Thank
good.
you all, and
Okay,
yep,
meeting adjourned.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Angie?